This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Sunday.
Welcome back to Sunday Groove. This is episode 7. I cannot actually believe that this has been 7 episodes so far, and the fact that some of y'all are listening, I'm very, very grateful for that. For those of you out there that interact with me on a regular basis, I really, really appreciate it. And those just that listen, I do encourage you, if you haven't reached out to me and you do listen, please let me know. I do take feedback. I might not respond right that second or immediately put it in the show, but I would gladly do not anything, but I mean I will topic ideas, things to improve it, I will definitely do. So anyway, thank you guys. Today, like I said, it's the 7th episode, and this is a monthly podcast for those of you. If this is possibly your first episode, it's a monthly one, so don't expect it, too regularly, but please go back and listen to some of the other ones. Last month we talked about soundtracks, and if I was truly prepared, I would mention a few of the feedback, but I think I'm going to have to save that for next episode, which I know is weird to do, but I got sidetracked getting the actual topic ready. So anyway, I today have a special guest, and it's technically the second guest that's not part of the Place to Be Nation team. I know Garner was on last month, and he's never been part of our podcast network, but got another one today, and he is someone that introduces me to music all the time. I'm really not sure exactly how long we've talked via Facebook through mutual friends, but I know I met him in person about a year and a half ago. But he runs a little fan page on Facebook, and we discuss music, and got to know each other pretty well, I think, through that. So anyway, really great guy, really awesome music fan, and somebody I've been looking forward to having on the show. So this is Jeremy Patrick Henderson. Thanks for coming out.
No problem, man. I appreciate you inviting me on, asking me to be a part of it. I've been a fan of what you've been doing for a while now. Well,
I appreciate it. I know I shared it in your group that time, and I was like, I hope this is okay, because I know we hadn't done podcast in there yet, but that was really it's actually surprisingly the only music group I'm part of on Facebook. Like I have threads where I talk to people about music some, but as far as actual groups, that's the only one.
Yeah, we have it's not a huge group, but we have a core of people who really appreciate music and all kinds of music. So you'll have different people sharing different things at different times, and quite a few musicians in there that we say self-promotion is okay as long as you just don't go over the top. So
right.
You sharing your art, which I consider anything you create as art, is just the same as all the other musicians promoting their gigs and stuff like that. So
awesome. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, one of these days I hope to actually have art that way again, because I do miss drumming immensely. Have a friend might be hooking me up with a set pretty soon, so that, not saying that will lead immediately to new music, but at least playing more regularly would be awesome. So now I know you're obviously a huge music fan, and I hope you don't mind me mentioning the name of the group on Facebook, on this show, Music Mass Consumption. We're a very open group, and so if you reach out to either one of us, I'm sure we'll let you in and discuss music with us.
Mhm.
But so I know you love music and you discuss it all the time and share a lot of new stuff. You amaze me with how much new music you can keep up with. I have a hard time keeping up with new music, and I normally just go back to some of my old stuff. It's just comfort food, basically, or comfort music. But what is your musical background? What did you do? You play any instruments or sing or anything?
I marched, played the tenor saxophone through high school, and into junior college. I was part of the ensemble out at WW for 2 years. And then after that, I kind of put the saxophone down, and pretty much all of my life, I've been more of a connoisseur. That's probably a pretentious word.
Pretension is allowed, so don't worry.
I've appreciated music for the majority of my life. I haven't created really much of my own. I do write, but as far as like writing music and producing or performing music, haven't really dipped my foot into that too much, except for, high school, college, that type of thing.
Okay, when you write, do you write for tenor sax, or do you write lyrics, or what kind of thing do you do?
Just poetry, prose.
Okay.
Pretty much just, I guess, catharsis. If I need to get something off of my mind or off of my chest, I'll write it down, or sometimes I lean on to music, which, just as well as I do that if you're feeling a certain way, there's always a song out there to kind of pair with that feeling and help you kind of deal with it. So.
Oh yeah. Well, cool. Yeah, I went through my poetry phase for a while there, and I still do it occasionally, but I haven't felt as inspired lately, as far as that way. Now I write my little silly jingles all the time that end up on some of the other shows, and I derive way too much pleasure from that. I know that's not major accomplishments maybe, but it's something I have fun with, so I always am dabbling with that. But glad to hear you do that. So you said tenor sax, that was in high school, and then at LBW? Have you played since then?
I'll pick it up every once in a while and play a little bit. But as far as being a part of a group that performs or doing it in a serious fashion, no, I haven't. I mean, my son is now in band. He chose the alto sax. I won't hold that against him. But he's enjoying it, and I may pick it up again, as he goes along, and maybe play along with him. We might start a father-son, what would be like a corner duet, saxophone duet. No, I'm just joking.
Hey, you could. I mean, who knows?
Earn some lunch money,
I'm just glad. I always love to hear of young people getting into music. It just feels like a lot of people are kind of getting away from that, and I'm like, no, arts are so important. So I'm glad to hear that. How old is your son?
He is 11.
11. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like I said, at least he picked the same family of instruments. I went far away from my father. He played saxophone. It's been so many years, and he actually hasn't owned it the whole time that I've been around. So I don't remember which saxophone he played. But anyway, that's what he played a little bit in high school. But I went all drums. That was just where my heart was. So that's what I went with.
Well, people may disagree, but I think that one saxophone, if you learn to play one, it's not that much of a leap to pick up the others. So,
right.
If you so desired, you could move over to tenor or Barry, or even go back the other way and go to soprano if you wanted to be a little Kenny G.
Right.
But
who doesn't want to be a little Kenny G? I mean,
right.
I want the hair. I wish I had that much hair. I wouldn't style it like his, but
I just want hair, man. Kind of balding on top.
Mine's been doing that a lot more recently, the last couple of years myself.
Feels old, man.
Yep. So you played tenor sax. Have you ever dabbled with guitar or anything like that?
I have owned 2 different guitars in my life, and I even wrote at one time a rudimentary song that I never wrote down the lyrics or notes for. I just kind of, thumbed it out on my own one night whenever I was, feeling sorry for myself, and I wrote a sappy song. But I've not mastered the guitar, and I don't have one now, because each one that I bought it as like, I'm gonna learn how to play this. I'm serious this time, and then it just never happens. I guess it's just not for me. I don't know.
Now, do you buy expensive ones? Is that why you get rid of them, or?
No. I usually buy, a nice sounding guitar. I think each one of them that I bought was $200 or $300 or something like that. So
Okay, well, you went beyond what I did. I bought a $100 Ibanez acoustic just because I wanted something that would sound halfway decent, but I knew the likelihood that I would give up, which is what I did. So that's what I sunk into it. But I refuse to get rid of mine, even though one of these, I don't know if I'll ever pick it up again or not. Who knows? But cool. But you went beyond me, though, as far as you were thumbing through a song. I learned 4 chords, and that was as far as I got.
Yeah, I had the 3 or 4 chords, and that's what I used to write that song, which I never wrote down and can't remember. So it must not have been that great, but that's as far as I got.
Okay. Well, the only song I ever wrote was just lyrics, and then my friend, him through the group, Sam Neely, he wrote a guitar part for it, and we helped me work the lyrics to it. So, like, one time I had one song, and I was so proud to have that one song. And I still remember the lyrics very well. I actually remember how to sing it and everything, but and one of these days I want to actually get a proper recording of it, but Sam will have to relearn it for that to happen. It won't be hard, but just got to find that VHS tape where it's actually put down on years ago. So
yeah, I'm sure Sam would be down for that. He's a performer by nature. So
oh yeah. I was just happy that he helped me with that, because he's such a good singer that it didn't make sense for me to sing lead very much when we dabbled back in college. But anyway, this isn't it is my show, but this isn't it's supposed to be about me. So I know normally I ask if you could be any kind of musician or part of a band, which band would you be part of?
Which band would I be part of?
Yeah.
Oh man, there's so many, to be honest with you. But if I could be a part of any band, I'd want to go back to when Otis Redding was alive in his heyday, and just be any member in his band, just to stand on stage with him, be behind him whenever he was performing.
Nice. Yeah, he's incredible. You got me to listen to Otis Blue, and I was just blown away by that.
Yeah.
I mean to get into more of his stuff, but that's as far as I've gotten so far.
Well, that's kind of the people will have different opinions, obviously, but that's one of the pinnacles. I mean, it was early on, and he has several other good albums, but that album in particular was just very good.
Nice. Were there any other thoughts on music you want to share before we dive into the first segment of the show?
Well, I guess the thing that I always go back to is whenever people talk about what's good and what's bad in music, the thing that I always like to say, or the thing that always comes to mind, is that what's good and what's bad in music is really subjective. It's about what you like and don't like. And I think a lot of people either lose sight of that or don't value it as much as I think they should.
Right.
Especially now, it seems that people are really critical of like the newer music, especially as I get older. People think about the newer music that it's just noise or whatever, whenever you're older or whatever.
Right.
But the thing about it is that it sounds different and it connects to you differently depending on where you are and what's going on in your life. So I guess that's the thought that I would like to share. It's like, I guess, be kinder whenever you are maybe appreciating or being introduced to someone else's music. You might not like it, and it's okay not to like it, but just don't be a jerk about it.
Right. Oh, I completely agree with that. If you probably have noticed in this show, I have not talked really bad about anything. Like I've said, I haven't liked something, but I've tried to keep it pretty positive.
Right.
And somebody recently asked me, it's like, when are you going to do a worst 5 of any category? And I'm like, I don't know that I will, because as much as I do enjoy being critical and with friends, like just goofing off, I will do that. But I don't really want to put that out there into the world, because there's so much negativity out there that I'm like, man, I don't really want to make my name on that.
Yeah,
I can be negative any day without even really trying. I'll catch myself. So
yeah.
And I used to be, oh my gosh, like really, really snide about a lot of music in general, and just don't like being like that anymore. And I'm glad to hear that you feel that same way, and I knew you did, because I mean the variety of stuff you share is very fascinating to me, because I Like just when I think I figured out what you like, you add something else to it, which is awesome. But like I know for a while there, I just knew about the like 90s rock and such. But like
Yeah, of course.
I know I was listening to one of your playlists on Spotify the other day, and it was like much newer electronica and stuff like that I haven't gotten nearly as into. But like it's good stuff. Like it's just not. I'm going to spend some more time with it, and I'm sure a lot of it will resonate with me. But it was just caught me off guard, I guess. Not in a bad way, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, it may or may not. And the thing I find very fascinating about even myself, like I'll go back and listen to my other playlists because I have them all sorted by year or whatever. So I'll dip back to, like 2014, and I'll start listening. Back in 2014, for whatever reason, my bread and butter was a lot of folk and Americana,
right?
And like indie folk and just the laid back kind of music. And that just must be what I was going through or felt at that time. And I can kind of sit back and it's almost like a scrapbook, listen through the songs and kind of remember what was going on at that time and kind of reconnect with that. And it's very revealing, very explorative. And I really enjoy that. And for whatever reason, I don't understand right now. Right now, my thing is kind of more the poppy electronica type of thing. And that's what I'm feeling. And I don't know why, but maybe next year, whenever I listen back to these songs, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember that was the reason why I was digging that at that time.
Right. Well, and sometimes we don't know until later. Like we don't even realize the trends until later on. We kind of step back. But I think was it 2014 or somewhere around there that like Mumford & Sons and like Lumineers and everybody were like blowing up, and was that around that time?
Yeah, the early 2000. I guess you'd call it early 2010s.
Okay.
I don't know the proper word for. Yeah, there was a revival of folk and Americana, definitely in full swing around that time. That might have been the reason.
I was just thinking that I didn't remember the exact years, but I remembered it being somewhere in like the last 7 or so years that I myself dabbled a lot more in folk, and that's something I never thought I would get into.
I think it started to bubble up around like 2005, 2006. Kind of underground, and then it kind of slowly built to a crescendo up around that time. And it's still there, but it's not as prevalent.
Right. Well, I know bands like Mumford & Sons, they've changed their style a ton since then. But I was
absolutely.
I Know More came out in 2009. Okay, so I was a little behind on that, but and then Babel, their second album was 2012, and I know Lumineers were not too far behind that, so that makes sense. Partly as far as me getting into them in the like maybe 2013 or 14, I was behind the time on that. Maybe I got into them earlier. I really, it doesn't really matter. It's just that's something I was thinking. But
a lot of those bands are plugging in or shedding that bare-boned acoustic type of roots feel for a fuller and a more ensemble-based sound. Mm-hmm. And I guess you can call it maturing, or you can call it a sign of the times. I'm not sure, but yeah, it's definitely happening with most of those bands from back there. I guess maybe one of the only exceptions would be Fleet Foxes. They still kind of sound the same. They kind of go with the if it's not broke, don't fix it type of thing. So
I need to check them out. Like I know I've heard them before, and I have a friend that was really into them, but I've never really ventured too much into them. The one thing I forgot to ask you, what is one of your first musical memories? It doesn't have to be anything, amazing,
well,
but just something, whatever comes to mind.
Well, it's a tie between a couple of memories, honestly. The one that is most prevalent would be sitting in the back seat of the car with my mother on the way to town to run errands, groceries, or whatever, and just the radio was up loud and she was singing along, and I was back there smiling, and the windows were down, and that's one of my earliest memories. That's the reason why people ask about songs that you love or you associate with your youth, and one of those is Boston's More Than a Feeling.
Nice.
And that's because I can remember being in the back seat of the car, and she would just sing that song as loud as she could. And that's one of my earliest memories. The other one, when I was young, too young to really know what was going on with anything. I can remember being at family reunions and people would say, Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Because, Jeremy.
Right.
And I would look at them, I was like maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5. And I was like, what? Why? Are you calling me a bullfrog? What are you saying? And then as I got older and I started to get into music, I realized that it was Three Dog Night.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, okay. They were singing a song to me. I got it.
Nice. And I love that song. That's actually one of my mom's favorite. Like, she doesn't get into a whole lot of rock and roll, but Three Dog Night's one of her favorites. So I know that was something we'd listen to together. Really a little bit older in my life, because I know for a while there she just wasn't listening to a ton of music. It was more my dad. But when I discovered that, like, we started listening to that together because that was something we could bond over.
Yeah, music is a powerful thing, and I've discovered that through meeting new people through that music group or just through Facebook in general. It's like, if you can find someone who appreciates music in the same way that you do, or even just a little bit, and even people who might not appreciate it but just enjoy music in general, you can form a connection if there's nothing else there at all.
Right.
Just by nature of sharing those songs. And if you're honest about what you enjoy and you're honest about the songs that mean something to you, then you can create an honest connection just through sharing music.
Yeah, and that's honestly how I've built a few of my friendships. I know Sam Neely and Russell Sellers, like, that's about all we talked about the first while that we knew each other was music. And it later, of course, spread into a lot of other interests, but those were definitely the early days. Okay. I guess it's time to go into current spins. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Current spins, what you've been listening to. Current spins, it can be old or new. Current spins, yeah. Yeah, that's my new makeshift jingle I'm working with. So if you hate it,
I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, if you like it or hate it, let me know. I might make an official recording of that, and the producer Todd Weber might be able to jazz it up a little bit and make it sound even better. So yeah, definitely know if you like it, people. So Jeremy, since you're the guest, I'm going to let you go first. What's something that you've been listening to currently?
I have not had a single, like, some people say, this album or that album. I don't have one yet that it's just a whole bunch of singles, really.
Okay, that works.
The most recent one being the new single from The Weeknd and Kendrick Lamar, "Pray for Me." This, I guess it's from the Black Panther soundtrack.
Okay.
This is going to be released next weekend, right?
Yes.
His theaters next weekend.
Weekend after next, the 17th or 16th.
That's the most recent one that I can't really seem to stop playing. Aside from that, there's an up-and-comer by the name of Natty Reeves, Natty. He has a song called "Under Your Thumb" that I've played over and over and over again. Played it so much that I got my son to fall in love with it, and I hear him playing in his room sometimes now.
Nice. That's got to feel good too. I would think anyway. Influences his listening.
It does, but honestly, he doesn't have a choice because I'm playing music so often that it's bound to rub off on him somehow.
Right. But I'm sure there's plenty that doesn't resonate, and then when there's something that does, I'm sure it just feels awesome.
Definitely. It definitely feels good whenever he picks something up like that, and just, he's actually become obsessed with the song, and it was because there's a saxophone part in it. I guess maybe the second half of the song, and saxophone comes in, and it's kind of subtle, but he's like, "Is that a saxophone?" He said, if I practice, can I sound like that?" I was like, "Absolutely." So he's been kind of obsessed with that. I think he wants to end up playing as well as the saxophone in that song, which is not, an extravagant thing. It's just kind of a background kind of warbling, but, it sounds good. because
Right.
it's a saxophone. But there's also, I don't know if you've heard Troye Sivan, the song My, My, My. It's one of the popular songs. It's in mainstream.
I'm not sure. I can't remember.
But I really enjoyed that song, and that's another in my heavy rotation. And there's an artist by the name of Hablo Brown, Hablot, and he has a song called She Said that I've also not seemed to want to stop playing. I'm really into, I guess it would be considered neo-soul. It's a kind of heavy movement that's over across the pond right now in the UK, and it was kind of popular over here in the States back in the late 90s, early 2000s with like D'Angelo and Lauryn Hill and the Roots. And you know,
yeah. Now I
that
know
was
more
kind
what
of
you're
that was
talking
kind
about.
of that was kind of the time that D'Angelo dropped the album Voodoo, which is kind of one of my top albums of all time. And it's kind of fizzled out over here with some minor exceptions, like Leon Bridges is kind of bringing back soul a
He's
little bit.
incredible too. I need to
Yeah.
listen. Honestly, I forget about him. Like I've not actually bought his album, and that's probably why I forget about it. But I keep meaning to, or at least spend him more on Spotify or something, because I remember digging a couple tracks I heard of his.
Yeah, he has a great voice. Very reminiscent of, like a young Sam Cooke.
Yes.
And, Lake Street Dive also kind of had a neo-soul kind of feel to them, but they were a little bit more poppy. But aside from those artists, there's not really a lot in the neo-soul. But over across the pond in the UK, there's quite a few artists that are kind of bringing back that sound, like Tom Misch and, Hablo Brown and a bunch of others. So
Nice. Now, is Lake Street, are they still around, or?
yeah, they put out an album. It was either 2016 or 2017. It was not as good to me, or it did not resonate as well for me as their other album. What was it called? Bad Self Portraits. Because they kind of went with a newer sound. It was a lot more pop driven than soul driven. And they still sounded great. I mean, they're still very talented, but it wasn't my thing. So it didn't hit as well with me as, their earlier material, but still a great band, still worth checking out because, Rachel Price, the lead singer, has an amazing voice.
She's incredible. I remember you sharing a couple of her live performances, and really it's spoke to me. Me and my forgetful self. If I don't look into it right then, I might forget about it for a while. And I need that reminder occasionally to be like, oh yeah, I need to listen to that more.
But that's kind of what I sketched down as far as current spins. But I'm always, like you said, I probably spend more time than I should trying to digest new stuff, but that's kind of how I like to pass the time. Some people like to cross stitch or, watch a soap opera or something like that. But for me, it's very relaxing and engaging and entertaining for me to kind of thumb through random playlists and try to find something I never heard before, because I love the feeling of finding a new song that, makes me kind of want to close my eyes and get lost for a little bit. And
Right.
it's kind of like a drug, I guess, almost. Maybe that's the problem, but I'm always searching for that next song that's gonna, I guess, speak to me, and that's the reason why I'm always sharing and always listening to new things. And if you would have asked me, or if this podcast had been recorded tomorrow, my list would probably have been completely different. But as far as today, that's kind of what I sketched down.
Nice. Yeah, I've like I said, I've always been amazed at how you keep up with more newer stuff. Well, one thing I'd forgotten I told you yesterday was for some reason, like my Spotify messed up on my old work computer, and I forgot when I got a newer one to even see if it would work on it, because I couldn't tell if it was something they did, the company, or if it was an old computer. So I'm not really sure. So now that I can do that, I need music in the background to keep me motivated and keep me doing some of my paperwork stuff every day. So I could probably keep up with newer music that way. Otherwise, I'm just like whatever's on my phone is what I'm listening to. That's like on my hard drive, not on through data. Because like a lot of people, struggling to maintain, not go over my data each month.
Yeah.
So
that's probably the one blessing of my job, being a designer and sitting at the desk and plus having my own office and not having to really engage with people. I can put on a pair of headphones, set into my work, and just, digest as much music as I want, which is probably the main reason why I'm able to do as much listening as I do. If I were to have a different job where we're away from the desk, then it'd be a different story. So
right, yeah, I have maybe an hour a day at the desk that I might be able to listen to music, and I can't completely focus on it. I have to, obviously I'm multitasking, but it helps me so much. Right. With some paperwork, so I'm gonna have to. I installed Spotify on my work computer yesterday, so I'm gonna start diving into some newer stuff, most likely. But me, I like whatever I've recently bought on Amazon or whatever I've, whatever CD I've found that I haven't listened to in a long time, just stays in my car for a while. So I just get stuck on rotations, and one of those was based on another podcast. And actually, no, I want to make another point first, because it's about to lose my mind. Otherwise, leave my mind, not lose my mind. Well, both. Anyway, I think I just lost it. Crap. Maybe I'll circle back around. Anyway, because I don't find new music all the time, I get bored sometimes with music. Not in general, but I just haven't found anything new, and I think that's why I started gravitating towards podcasts. And I love them, and I'm glad to listen to them, but I love music, so I'm always glad to find new stuff. So I need to start kind of dabbling a little bit more into music. That way I can kind of keep a happy, maybe half and half, or maybe 60-40 or something, probably more towards the music side. Because there was about a year ago, I was just bored with music for a little while there. I wasn't finding anything new, and some things weren't speaking to me at the moment. It probably was just what was going on in my life, but I didn't like it. I'll say that much. It was weird. But speaking of podcasts, though, there's a really big one, and I'm not so much plugging that podcast in general, but one episode. I Am Jericho, Chris Jericho, the wrestler. Some of his podcasts don't do a whole lot for me because it's other wrestlers, and I'm not a real big wrestling fan, but I appreciate it. But he loves music. He has his own band, Fozzy, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it's awesome he's able to juggle both. But he had a episode, maybe November, December, where he discussed, him and two other guys, I can't remember their names, but they were guests, and they discussed Master of the Puppets and Ride the Lightning, and they compared them track by track and just did a breakdown. And they also, the other two guys, they're not, they're in the arts somewhere. I can't remember. I think one was a comedian, one might be a musician himself. I'm not really sure. But they worked in some stories of meeting Metallica and everything. But it was just so cool to hear somebody break those albums down. And I'm a huge Metallica fan. Love all their stuff except for Saint Anger, pretty much. But anyway, it was really cool that it discussed Master versus Ride, and they went track by track and compared them. And if you're a big Metallica fan, check that out. It's definitely worthwhile. It got me to listen to both those albums a lot of times, and actually ended up working them into while I was playing Assassin's Creed. I took the music out of Assassin's Creed and mixed in with, thanks to Spotify, Metallica, and it was really cool riding around in Egypt and while listening to 80s Metallica.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I did that years ago, and I actually forgot you could do that. I guess about 2 years ago I did that. Mixed it in, and then remembered I could do that, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So if you're into 80s Metallica, like I said, check that out. Something else just fun, and it's not at all new. Most of my current spins are I use it loosely. It's currently that I'm listening to it, recently listens. Not that it's current music or recent music, because a lot of my stuff is not necessarily new. But Def Leppard, Pyromania, I was digging that so much last weekend. While I was doing chores, because I gotta have music going or podcast or something to keep me motivated doing chores, because I mean, hence the name. I hate chores. That's why they're called that. But I was just like strutting around and dancing to it. And anytime music inspires me to do stuff like that, it's just fun because it can just like transform your mood. And Def Leppard, that hit me really good that time. I think that album, I think 1983 or so, has a lot of hits, but also has some deep stuff that's really cool. And other than that, there's one album I'm really excited for coming out the end of March. It's an artist I spoke about maybe 3 months ago, Lindy Ortega. She has a new single, Comeback Kid, which is really cool. I'd seen her share it, and I'd like watched her videos talking about her new album, Liberty, that drops. I think it's March 30th, but I'd not actually heard the whole song yet. But it's got a really good groove to it, and it's really, really cool. Seems like she's expanding a little bit more than just her classic country kind of style and Americana. She's kind of got. I'm not really sure what's going on with that one as far as how to describe it, but it's good. So I'm very excited for that. Have you ever listened to any of hers?
I think I've heard one single, but I have not really kind of dove into her work.
Okay. And I'll be honest, like the main thing that got me into her was seeing her live. Like, I didn't have a clue who she was until like 5 days before. Yeah,
that makes a big difference.
Right. And it's like 5 days before I saw her. She was actually the headliner. I was going to see the opener, Brett Detter, that I talked about, I think, last month. Anyway, he, like, I was going completely for that. Like, I remember it was a very last-minute show, and I told Sam, like, hey, we got to go to this. And he's like, who's the headliner? I'm like, I don't know. And I told him her name. And I listened to a little bit of her stuff that week, but not tons. I was more focused on Brett's stuff because he had just dropped a new album. But seeing her live and just hearing her beautiful voice and unique, strong voice really got me into her, even though I'm not nearly as into country. Like, that just helped me out as far as discovering not a new genre, but kind of part of a genre, I guess, because it's that more classic style of it, not the modern country as much. But yeah, if that's your thing, or if you're looking for new stuff, check her out. And then, another good jumping point with her is the iTunes session she did, because I think her studio albums are good, but it doesn't capture her actual voice as well as like the live footage that she did for the iTunes sessions or anything you can find. I think it's Dakota something on YouTube that's a really good show. Just captures that voice. But yeah, I hope I'm not keeping this too long, the current spins, but one of the album that really has been resonating with me lately was Gary Clark Jr.'s first EP, or first major EP, and that was, I think, Black and Blue. Crap, I said I was going to...
the first, I think that's his first major LP, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because, like, I love his first major album. Sorry, Black and Blue, yeah, that's the first LP. Bright Lights is what I meant to say. Bright Lights came out before that. It was just a 4-song EP. Came out in 2011.
Yeah.
And dig that album a lot. I honestly almost, and I might be overthinking myself, but I almost put Black and Blue on my topic, this topic this week, but then I realized he'd won a couple Grammys, and that it's a very well-recognized album, so I'm like, I'll just mention it in my current spins. But the Bright Lights EP, to me, is even better, because it's like more stripped-down versions of these songs, like the earlier versions, and for me, I think it captures the emotion better. I mean, the Black and Blue album is great, too. Don't get me wrong.
Did you watch his live recordings on YouTube? He has a few of them on there, where he's basically down in like a train station or a subway, and it's just him and a guy on a snare drum, and it's very raw.
Probably.
And I think he plays "Don't Owe You a Thing," and one other song. God, I gotta go back and watch it now. But those videos were basically my introduction to Gary Clark Jr. I stumbled upon one of them on YouTube. I fell down the rabbit hole, as they say.
Yeah.
And I clicked on it, and I was like, "This guy is really good."
Oh, he's incredible. I might have watched that footage back in the day. I don't remember if that's from that time frame.
Yeah, they're several years old. Yeah.
But yeah, his acoustic versions of Things Are Changing and When My Train Pulls In, acoustic is just, I mean, like his electric guitar version is amazing. But I don't know, that acoustic guitar just, it does it more for me on that song. And definitely recommend checking him out. And I was happy to see when I was doing research for this show, and that's why I second guessed myself. But he actually won 2 Grammys for Black and Blue. One was for one of the rock songs, and then like the next year he won one for his I think Please Come Home. Got an R&B Grammy award. So that's a really cool thing about him is he can do everything. Like he has a little bluesy rock style going a lot of times, but he can also do a much higher pitched R&B style voice, and it's really good. So yeah, preparing for this show, that kind of got me to dive back into him because he's one that like he's gotten a lot of recognition. Heck, he even did the song for the wonderful Justice League movie, and I'm mostly being facetious there because I don't hate the movie, but it wasn't exactly amazing. But he did Come Together, and I'm not crazy about it, that version, because it's just so electronic and over to me maybe a little overproduced for the song, but it's good. Like he's a good artist, and I'm glad he's getting work and getting some recognition. But if you haven't checked him out, definitely check him out. Obviously, I'm talking.
That song kind of felt like they came to him and said, "You know, Gary, we really like your work. We want to have you on the soundtrack. Can you do something for us?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess I can do this cover of Come Together."
Right.
That's kind of how it felt to me when I listened to it.
Yeah, it definitely didn't feel as inspired as a lot of his other stuff, but like I said, I'm glad for him to get some recognition. I just hope it didn't dissuade the people from listening to some of his other stuff, because that's in no way an indication of what you'll get with his other stuff.
No, not at all.
But yeah, I think it was Junkie XL helped him out on that one, and which explains a lot of the electronic style of it, and more heavy production than his other stuff.
That's a throwback name, isn't it?
Yes. Well, was he ever big in pop music? Like, I only know him from the movie side, like helping out.
Junkie XL? Mm-hmm. He was kind of, his work was kind of, I don't know if you'd call it pop or mainstream. It came close, but it was kind of like in the 90s, the early to mid to maybe late 90s, same time that the Prodigy was kind of booming with their album Fat of the Land.
Right.
Remember that? I've never really been one to gauge just how popular or mainstream something is, because I don't really pay attention to that. It's just like, if I like it, I like it.
Right.
So I would have to actually go to the almighty internet and see if he ever experienced mainstream success. But he was definitely popular back in that time frame.
Wow,
but
I
since
did not
then,
realize
you're right. He's been kind of mainly movies and that type of thing. So
if I did know that he did stuff in the 90s, I didn't remember. Yeah, I just Wikipedia'd him, and yeah, he had several albums in there, but I just know him from the film side, because I remember his name getting thrown up in movie scores just threw me aside, because I'm used to Hans Zimmer and people like that, and so hearing somebody so different and like with such a name like that, it doesn't scream, doesn't make me think of the same category of people. But I guess he's done a lot of other stuff. So do you have any other thoughts on Gary Clark Jr. or Junkie XL?
I mean, like you said, Gary Clark Jr., if you're not familiar with him, definitely someone that you should not sleep on. And I would definitely start with David's recommendation of the Bright Lights EP. Black and Blue is great, but the best introduction to Gary's work is that early stuff, because he was very raw, and I guess you would call it raw and hungry, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And you could tell that he wanted something more, and he was giving it all that he had. Not to say that what he's doing now is lesser, but it's just something about that early work from someone that has not really broken out yet, that you can hear something in it. You can throw it back to like, another example would be Jewel and her, what was it, Pieces of Me album?
Oh my gosh, that's a great album.
That album was filled with all the work that she wrote whenever, she was basically homeless. Mm-hmm. So she was hungry. She was, very passionate, and not to take away from the other things that she did later on, but it was a completely different animal. And with Gary Clark Jr., the Bright Lights EP is, I guess, his Pieces of Me. So
Right.
definitely check him out and definitely start there. And then if you like what you hear there, then just keep on going through.
Right. Yeah. Black and Blue. I think that it wasn't as raw, and it was. I'm not gonna. I hate saying overproduced.
It was more polished.
It was definitely much more polished, and that took away a little bit from it. His follow-up album after that was actually I admired. I didn't like it as much, but I admired him doing something different with. The
story of what Sonny Boy Slim was the name of it?
Yeah. I knew it had Sonny Boy, but I couldn't remember what the last part was.
They brought in more the rock side of things on that album and most of the tracks.
Right, but also I would say a little less blues style on there. More, I can't even think of the style, but anyway, yeah, definitely. I'm glad you agree on that. The Bright Lights definitely is a great place to start with him. So I guess I'll introduce the actual topic, which I don't know if it's going to be titled when it actually. When it pops up on the our feed, because I have really struggled with naming this one, and but basically, when I told Jeremy about it, was just it could be any 5 albums he wanted that he considers to be overlooked, unknown, disliked, or deserving a chance, whether that be a first chance or a second chance. I have something that falls into almost all those categories for mine. So, like I said, it's probably my most wide title. Like I said, I'll probably maybe come up with a better title as it gets before it gets posted. But that's basically what I'm talking about. Like something, it could be a big band, but it could be an album that just really flopped with people, or just most people didn't pay attention to. It could be somebody completely new. Whatever you really want to say it is in that category. So I'm going to let Jeremy start with his. And these aren't top 5. This is just 5 that we wanted to talk about.
I would like to sit here and say, well, we had a short time frame and, blah, blah, blah. But to be honest with you, with me, I'm so indecisive when it comes to, someone says, oh, give me your top 5, or what's your all-time favorite? And someone asked me that question, I'm like, well, right. I just had to respond and say, well, right now, this is my answer. But it changes a lot. And so basically, as I sat down and I started to think about it all, you were talking about you had some that you kind of put on the list, but then you kind of took them away because you're like, oh, well, he was nominated for a Grammy, or, well, this is probably pretty well known. I had to dismiss those thoughts. You know what I mean?
I should have, but since I ended up coming with 5 after doing that, I went ahead. I think I'm going to stick with it.
So I just kind of went with stream of consciousness and wherever my thought process took me. The first thing that I thought of, we've already mentioned, and that was Otis Blue.
Okay.
Everyone knows Otis Redding, but that album has got a lot of years on it now, and I don't know what your audience is, but if you're out there listening right now and Otis Redding, but you've never really listened to like a body of his work or an album of his work, I really suggest you pick up Otis Blue. And however you consume your music, and just take some time with it. It definitely deserved a chance. And I think the thing I like about Otis is he's done a lot of covers. Like that album, he did his version of Change Is Gonna Come.
Mm-hmm.
And he makes all the songs that he covers his own. And it's definitely a unique style. The next thing in my thought process, Tom Waits, and they compare him to Bob Dylan. And it's like, I've even heard people have conversations about, kind of trying to figure out your musical taste depending on if you like Tom Waits or Bob Dylan more. Are you a Tom Waits or a Bob Dylan guy? I don't know. I mean, but I would like to recommend a Tom Waits album. Nighthawks at the Diner. If you've never listened to Tom Waits, or if you've heard his songs and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, God's voice, I can't do it," I would suggest you give Nighthawks at the Diner a chance, because it is a live album. I'm not going to tell you where it's recorded, because I want you to listen to it and see if you can try to guess where it was recorded, because I had a different idea in mind of where the live recording took place, and I was completely wrong, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. But basically, he sits down, and it's 18 tracks, about an hour and 13 minutes worth, and it's performance art. He sings, but he also tells stories. He's a very funny guy, very clever. And I think that if you've never sat down with Tom, or if you haven't given him a proper chance, that album would be very enjoyable for anyone who really enjoys music, and especially anyone who enjoys performance art or just clever writing, because he knows how to turn a phrase, and he knows how to paint a picture. I already mentioned Lake Street Dive, but their album, Bad Self-Portraits, is really a work of soul, and Rachel Price's voice is worth the price of admission on its own. I know I didn't mean for that, Rachel Price and price of admission. Well, that kind of worked. Anyway, that album is definitely worth your time.
Now, are you doing all your top 5 right now, or are you...
I was just going down a list. I don't have a top 5.
Okay.
I can just do 5 of them and stop.
Well,
let's see. That's 1, 2, 3. Let's see here.
Well, how many did you have? Did you have 5, or did you have more? Or
I just started writing and didn't really kind of tailor it down.
Okay.
But I can right now on the fly. It's no big deal.
Well, no. The reason I ask is because I just normally alternate back and forth a little bit on that part, so I didn't know if you were.
I'm sorry.
No, this is perfectly fine.
Then I'll throw it to you, and you give one of yours.
Oh, okay.
Apologize for that.
No, not a problem at all. It glitched right when you mentioned Bob Dylan and Tom Waits, and so I got a little confused. I'm like, I'm not sure. Anyway, no harm, no foul, no problem at all there. So you did Otis Blue, and then you did Tom Waits. What's the name of that one again?
Nighthawks at the Diner.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I would say if anybody likes Bob Dylan, I mean, you've already dealt with a voice that to me isn't incredible, but it's more about his lyrics and music side. And so I'd imagine Tom Waits, I cannot think I know I've heard something by him, but I can't place it right this second, but I'd imagine that probably falls in a similar category. It's not less about the voice and more about what he's saying and the music and all the feel in general. Which is definitely the case with a lot of bands. Actually, some bands it's less about the singer and more about what they're saying and what the music's doing. So that's a very unique one. That's cool. I got to check that out because I have not. Like I said, I'm trying to think what Tom Waits I know, and I'm coming up blank. But one that I put on mine that I want to mention was Gaslight Anthem, handwritten. I think that one came out either 13 or 14. Google. I was thinking it's on my Amazon thing. Here. Doesn't say. Anyway, but it had a lot of good stuff on there. Have you ever listened to any of it?
Which album?
Handwritten.
No, I don't think I've sat with the whole album. I've listened to Gaslight Anthem before, but not that one in particular. I've pretty much just, consumed, I guess, tracks here and there. I think mainly shared through the group.
Okay. Yeah, it says 2012. I think I discovered it in 13 or 14, thanks to my friend Keith. He mentioned them, and I dig that album in its completion. Like I was jamming to it last night, and it just blows me away. Like it's got, I can't even describe the sound. That's one I'm less prepared on. But it's A cheesy way of saying it is, his writing speaks to my heart. Like, I will just say that some of the songs, like, I wish I'd written it. But it is just an incredible album that, I know there's a lot of Gaslight Anthem fans out there, and I know they have had relatively good success, but that's of their 3 or 4 albums I've listened to, it's my favorite of them, and one that I think everybody should experience. And really, as a whole, like, yeah, the singles are great, but I don't know, that album as a whole just really, really grabs me, and takes me back to when I first listened to it, which is just a few years ago. And it had an incredible cover of "You Got Lucky," Tom Petty song.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's actually, it was hilarious. Like, I remember when I listened to that track, it's I'm like, this sounds familiar. I love it. But I didn't immediately look it up, like, until I'd heard it a few times, and then felt so dumb when I looked it up. I'm like, oh, that's a Tom Petty song. Okay, that's why it sounds so familiar. Because I was wondering how I could sing along so quickly. I'm like, is it just that catchy, or do I know it? And the keyboard part should have keyed me in. It's an '80s song. I mean, he doesn't quite '80s it up as much as Tom Petty did on that one, but it still captures enough of that when I really thought about it, I'm like, oh, well, of course. So anyway, handwritten by Gaslight Anthem. I think they had taken a break, and I think they just got back together for a reunion tour. I don't know what their future holds, but as I know, the lead singer was doing solo stuff for a little while there. But they're a band, like I said, I know they have a pretty decent success, but it's not one I hear a ton of. But of course, we live down in Alabama, and I don't know about. Do you listen to radio much?
Not so much. Mainly just Spotify podcasts. That type of thing.
Because I know sometimes in my car I'll try to find radio, and it just seems like most of it's not rock, or it's gearing towards classic rock or '90s, early 2000s rock. So I'm not really sure how much play they get, I guess, is what I was trying to get across.
Mm-hmm.
So you said heard mainly through the group, like through the Facebook page, Gaslight Anthem.
Yeah, mainly through that, and I have a couple of friends that I think have shared from time to time some other Gaslight Anthem tracks that I've kind of clicked on and listened to. I really like their sound, so I'm definitely going to check that one out in its entirety.
Yeah, I guess I should mention a couple of tracks in particular. Handwritten's beautiful. 45 is great. Too Much Blood, I don't know, that just really speaks to me. National Anthem. But pretty much, like, when I was listening to it last night, I'm like, there's not a track I dislike. I mean, there's a couple that are definitely stronger than others, but there's not a bad track on it. So, definitely recommend that. All right, so you've done, you said, Otis Redding, Lake Street. Well, yeah, you were starting Lake Street. Go ahead and mention what you were going to say about them.
We'll just strike that one from the ledger. And just say we'll go with Otis and Tom Waits. Put me 2 up on the board, and
okay. So
you go ahead and do your second one. Then we'll be even Stevens.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. I'm not really good at explaining what I'm doing. So
That's no problem.
All right. Well, the next one is one. It's funny. Spotify told me it was one of my most played songs of maybe 2015. I want to say. But it's by a band I've mentioned before, but just really in passing, which is Monster Truck. Did I just lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Okay. Monster Truck, they a band from Canada. I discovered them while listening to a band, listening to them because they were going to open for Alter Bridge actually in 2014. So I guess I've been listening to them since 2014, but it was hilarious to me. At the end of, I guess, 2014 or 2015, they informed me, Spotify did, that was like some of my most played stuff. Because I think at that point, I had not actually bought any of their stuff. I had just been listening to like 2 tracks off of Furiosity, just a ridiculous amount. And so I just thought that was kind of cool. I'd never known they would let you know what your top tracks of that year were. but it is really, really good. Struggling technically right this second to pull up the actual album. Um, all right. Oh yeah. Old Train and The Lion were two of my really big fan of their stuff things. Then there was Sweet Mountain River. I think might have been my top played track of that year. Um, they've got a really classic rock sound, kind of blended with a little bit of southern rock, and I don't really even know what to say. I mean, maybe probably some metal, well, definitely some metal in there. And it's hilarious to me. They're from Canada, which just proves it doesn't matter where you're from. You can dig whatever style you like and just build
Absolutely.
upon it. But it definitely shocked me. But they did a really good job opening for Alter Bridge in 2014 and put on a really good show. But I dig that album. I go back to it a lot. They have a newer one that I like, Sitting Heavy, but if you want an introduction, if you have any interest in any of the things I described them as, definitely check out Furiosity. It's a really, really good album. I know the name, I think people might dismiss it because I don't want to make fun of the name, but it's just not something I don't know, it just doesn't stand out as the way some names. Like some names are just so catchy and so cool, and that's not one that really grabs me the same. But really good album, and it's definitely one I can say I don't think a ton of people know outside of when they open for Alter Bridge, and I know they definitely have a fan base, but I don't know many people that are into them. Actually, I don't know if I know anybody that's really into them, but I think they're a band people should check out. Did you say you've listened to any of them before? Or have you heard any of them?
Oh yeah. I've heard quite a few tracks from them. Once again, shared through the group by some other fans of that. I guess hard rock, southern rock kind of groove. I guess would Blackstone Cherry be a fair comparison? Maybe
They are, but
like early Blackstone Cherry.
yes, I would definitely accept early Blackstone Cherry. Some of their later Blackstone Cherry just lyrically gets so far out there that just it kind of bugs me a little bit. So but definitely the early stuff, I could definitely hear the comparisons. And I've actually seen them live too. They opened for Alter Bridge, actually a different tour, so that's kind of cool.
Oh, Blackstone.
Yeah, Blackstone.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I know they definitely have a huge fan base, and they shared the stage like they did half, like full amounts of time, whatever, back for Tremonti when Tremonti did one of his solo tours. So that was kind of cool. I mean, definitely Tremonti himself, he's a huge name, but as far as his solo act isn't as big as Blackstone Cherry necessarily. But because they respected each other and had toured before together, they've said that we're just going to co-headline this. We're not going to, necessarily have a larger time set, and that was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely that's a good comparison. So definitely, if you're into that, good old rock, and I think the lyrics are pretty good. I not that all of them I can tell you what they are, but they're good. So that's my second one that I want to mention. So Jeremy, what's your third one?
I was kind of trying to think about it as you were talking about your next one. Looking at my list that I'd made, probably the third one I'd want to suggest to people would be Shaky Graves. I know you've probably seen him shared in the group. He's been around for a while. He spent a lot of his early work kind of mainly through Bandcamp. I don't know if you're familiar with that website. Mm-hmm. And he put out several EPs and I think one LP through that before he got like his first major label release, which would be the one that I'd recommend. And that was, and then The War Came. That was back in 2014. He was actually about to come out with a new album, I think this year. So I guess maybe that's timely to mention it. But if you haven't heard that album, definitely go back to it. And Then the War Came. It's on Spotify, and I'm sure it's on Apple Music, and probably anywhere that you go to consume your music. And if you're a fan of like the roots kind of blues music, indie folk, Americana type of thing, kind of whenever it was released, the single that got really
circle
a
back
lot
just
of
a
play.
second. If you're a fan of the Roots, it kind of it cut out a second there, and I think on my recording it will cut out. So if you'll start back there.
Yeah, if you're a fan of like roots music, like the blues kind of folk Americana sound, with a little bit of a pop twist, then you would definitely enjoy his music. When he first started out on those Bandcamp recordings, it was same as Gary Clark Jr. It's kind of more raw, kind of stripped down.
Mm-hmm.
It was just him and like a rhythm box and his acoustic guitar for most of the music that he made. He was kind of a one-man band. But for And Then the War Came, he kind of enlisted a band, and it was a fuller sound, but still good stuff. And if you haven't heard And Then the War Came from Shaky Graves, that would be one that you definitely need to pick up and at least give a once through to see how it strikes you. I think most people would enjoy it, though. The song that got a lot of play was a song called Dearly Departed. It's very catchy, lots of stomping of the feet and hand claps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the one I heard. I know there
yeah.
was something I really dug from him, and I'm blanking on it.
But there are other deeper tracks. One called Family and Genius. Family and Genus. Sorry, not Genius. And then another one called House of Winston. Kind of like, I guess, the deeper cuts. But from beginning to end, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a body of work that kind of speaks for itself and probably speaks to different people in different ways. So that would be my number 3.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I'm going to have to dive more into because I remember hearing it, and I'm sure it was through the group. But I haven't dug into some of his stuff as much. I definitely dug what I heard.
And actually, if you go to bandcamp.com right now, he still has Roll the Bones, which is his, I guess it would be considered an independent release. It's available on that website at a name your price. So basically, if you wanted to, you could download it for free. Right. Or you could, pay $1 or whatever for it. But that is there as well, and it's equally worth your appreciation.
What was that called again?
Roll the Bones.
Roll the Bones, okay.
Yeah, and it's bandcamp.com right now through his Bandcamp page, which is kind of where I guess was introduced to him.
I forget about that site. I think one of my friends' bands, I think that might be where I first heard of it because I know they did the same thing with their first album. And that's the band called, well, they were called Jam Therapy. They're now The Matters, I want to say. My friend's no longer in them, but they're a cool retro rock band. That's probably where I heard Bandcamp. Probably somebody else too, but that's the only one I could think of.
Yeah, it's a great discovery tool for if you're looking for new music. You can kind of go there and just do their browse option. Forget what exactly they call it. Discover at the top of the page. And they break it down. You can click on different genres and get recommendations. And just, if you've got some time to click through, you find something new. Probably your next favorite song.
Nice. Well, I'm always, like I said, good to discover new ways to discover music or be reminded of good ways to discover new music because, like I said, in the car when I'm listening to the radio occasionally, it just doesn't grab me the same way, or it's just the same stuff I've been listening to over and over again, which is not necessarily bad, but it's not helpful to discover stuff as much as it used to be. Unless you're really into pop. If you're really into pop, there's there's always new stuff on there. And there's, like I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what's grabbing me currently.
Right.
But I meant to. It was something I was trying to do last night when I was putting my list together. Is a suggested track by Monster Truck to discover, and that is if you really like melodic but building songs. For the Sun is perfect for that. I was trying to categorize like a mellow and then a rocker from each album, and lost that idea completely this morning. That it completely left my mind. But now I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, wow, this is my most disorganized for a show, just because, well, I didn't hammer out the details of it until close to time, and I apologize to the listeners and to Jeremy for that. But it was it was one of those that I knew of 2 albums from the get-go what I wanted to say, and the rest I had to come up with. And so, anyway, hopefully people still enjoy my all over the place notes. But my third one I'll mention is a band, Manchester Orchestra. I know I've mentioned them on the show before, but I think it was just kind of in passing. They had a new album this year. But the one I want to mention is Cope. I think, it came out in 2013. And it was, it's what grabbed me. It was rawer than some of their other, well, I'm not saying rawer, but more straight ahead rocking, but it still had a heavy and still a little bit of a raw feeling to it. It's what grabbed me. It's what I first heard of them. And it just, that year, it spoke to me so well. And it's still one I go back to a lot. So it's definitely one I recommend to people. Pulling it up.
And then if they appreciate that, they can listen to the companion album they recorded, Hope.
Yes. It's kind of funny. I've listened to through Spotify Cope like a million times, but I didn't grab that one until after I grabbed Hope. Hope is definitely the reimagined versions of the songs, like just more beautifully and mellow, but it's really cool stuff. Okay, actually I misspoke. Cope came out in 2014, according to my album. All right, but Top Notch was the first single. It's a really good rocker, but there's just so many beautiful moments on it, so many just energetic moments on there. I put it on there because if you're from the Atlanta area, that's where they're from, and so most people there know about them. When I say most people, a lot of people there know about them, and a lot of people in our music group, we share stuff, know about them. But I still think they're not huge, and that's I don't know. I would like to see them be a little more known. Would be not necessarily top 40, but doesn't have to be that big. But just they're very talented, very very good musicians. The song Cope, oh my gosh, that one just gets me emotionally when I listen to it. So that's just the mansion, the ocean, especially the Hope version is just so beautiful. But you can't really go wrong with that album. If you like rock, especially indie rock, that's probably their most mainstream sounding album they've done. But it's, like I said, I'm struggling for words on it today, but it's a really incredible album that spoke to me so much in 2014, still speaks to me to this day, but definitely at 2014, it stuck out to me a lot. Do you have any other thoughts on Manchester Orchestra?
I love the band. And the thing that really amazes me about Cope and Hope is how, Hope is, like you said, it's the same songs from Cope, but reimagined. And it's almost like, well, not almost like, they are completely different songs. It's like they take it and turn it on its head. And it really kind of blew me away to hear what they did whenever they translated those songs from rockers to really ballads. Mm-hmm. And also, if you like Manchester Orchestra and the vocals from that, then the lead singer from Manchester also had a side project called Bad Books.
Yes,
that would be worth checking out if you enjoy Manchester.
Yeah, he actually, when I saw them live, he played I think one Bad Book song. and that was really cool. It was one thing I noticed in my. It was not intentional at all when I was finalizing my list today during my walk. Was that I think all but one of these bands I've seen live, which of course adds to the appreciation of the bands. But they put on a heck of a show, and I love the fact that, as we both have mentioned, Hope. Like when I heard they were doing it, I think they kind of kept it a secret till afterwards. But when I heard it had been done, I was like, "Oh, it's just gonna be an acoustic version of each song." But no, like they truly spent a lot of time reimagining these songs.
Yes,
and that is just so cool. Like I guess they just realized these songs spoke to so many people, they deserved a different version, and I'm glad they did it. I really would like to hear them do that, and I think I've heard they might do that with some of their older stuff at some point, or have done that. I could be misspeaking, I'm not sure, but it seems like I heard that somewhere.
Well, to me, it kind of spoke to the duality of the subject matter of the songs. Most of the songs were about, heartache and pretty much the bluer side of relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And, Cope was the angsty, I'm really mad right now kind of thing. I'm really mad, I'm really hurt, and I want you to know about it. And then Hope was the, maybe a little bit of acceptance, but also melancholy and really a lot of painful beauty. So it was almost, to me, it almost felt like they had told only part of the story with Cope, and then Hope came along and told the rest of it.
Nice. That's actually a really good way of putting it. Sometimes I need someone else to say what I'm trying to say, and that was definitely a very, very good job of that. As always, I do take a break in the show, partly because I need to, and partly because we like to advertise our other shows on our network. Because very, very pleased to be part of the Place to Be Nation Pop network, but that's also part of the Place to Be Nation network. So please listen to the ads and join us on the other side.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com, and we offer those to you on 3 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the original Place to Be podcast, as well as Main Event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, as well as the Our Vantage Point podcast and Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver quick-hit pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Psychology is Dead, Puro Potpourri, Stacy and Elliot's Bogus Journey, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Letters from Center Stage, Space City, and NWA Classics on Demand Adventure, Through the Years, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, and much more. And on our popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, PTBN Dadcast, Go Home in a Box, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, Geek and Sassy, and Imaginary Stories podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to all of our feeds on iTunes, and while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when shopping online, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Welcome back. This is the back half of Sunday Groove Episode 7. If you've forgotten what you were listening to, or maybe you took a break from it for a while, which I can't say I'd blame you if you want to take a break from my talking, but I'm very grateful you came back either way. So this is where we're talking about some overlooked albums, or just some that we want to bring attention to. So we've each mentioned 3, so I guess we'll dive back in with Jeremy's, whatever his 4th one is.
Number 4 for me, there's a band by the name of Shearwater, Shear Water, all one word. Back in 2016, they released an album called Jet Plane and Oxbow. And that album blew me away. I mean, I'd listened to Shearwater before, but most of their stuff had been, I mean, it was good. But it was very in the vein of like alternative indie, like deep indie, like to say, maybe you would be pretentious to say, oh, I listen to Shearwater. But the lead singer's voice, for some it might be an acquired taste, but it's very like, I wouldn't call it falsetto, although sometimes maybe he does a falsetto, but it's very unique. And Jet Plane and Oxbow had, I don't know if sometimes you encounter an album that just, it feels right to you. Maybe it's that time in your life or whatever. And in 2016, when I heard Jet Plane and Oxbow, it was just, I just couldn't stop listening to it. And if you want a good introduction, a rocking track from that is one called Glass Bones. And if you listen to that track and you don't want to hear more of it, then you probably shouldn't listen to the rest of it, honestly.
Right.
Because there are other songs on there, like the opening track called Prime. It's a very gorgeous track. Very much highlights his voice. And then another good one is called Pale Kings. But if you've never heard Shearwater before, or if you haven't heard that album by them, then I would suggest sitting down with that and giving it a listen, because it definitely deserves attention. And if you overlooked it, then you're doing yourself a disservice, I think. But if you don't like it, then that's cool too. We can still be friends.
Nice. That's something new to me. I'm going to have to check that out. And I like the idea of saying what's a good intro, because that's very important, because some bands, well, honestly, almost any band, like there's a lot of diversity on the album, and I don't know, certain songs are going to stick out to you more and grab you more. And then, like, if you decide you like that, it might help you enjoy the other parts of the album. But sometimes it's like that with albums, and it might be like track 7 or something like that might be the one that's going to grab people more. So I like the idea of kind of mentioning specific songs to check out.
And if you like Jet Plane and Oxbow, and you like the lead singer's voice and his style in general, then I would suggest for the number 2, I would suggest going with their album from 2008 by the name of Rook, ROOK. Would be a nice follow-up. And then if you're still hooked, you can go further back to 2004 for their album Winged Life. But you definitely have to appreciate his voice because I'm going to tell you, it's different. It's not Tom Waits or Bob Dylan, but it's different.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you specified that because that doesn't throw me off at all. But I know some people, voices really are a big deal, and with checking things out. And I know earlier you mentioned as far as fans of the show, I know like a lot of the fans are really big into the rock, but I think there's somebody who listens to kind of some of everything that listens to the show, as far as the ones I interact with. So I think some eclectic views are definitely out there. Anything else you want to say about them? I know I can't add because I haven't heard of them until just right now.
No, I mean, just stressing once again, their lead singer's voice is definitely different. You're going to have to appreciate that. It might be an acquired taste, but I enjoy that type of higher male voice. Mm-hmm. Kind of in the same vein as James Vincent McMorrow and what would be another one? I wouldn't say Sam Smith, although he does do falsetto. Mm-hmm. But anyway, it's in that same territory of male vocal, which I enjoy. And hopefully you will too.
Nice. Yeah, definitely look forward to checking that out because I know there's a lot of bands with unique voices that maybe immediately didn't grab me, but I got more into them. I'll listen to more of their stuff. It does. Okay, the fourth one I'm going to mention is an album I've been just bursting at the seams to talk about, and I've been wondering where to put it in. And I can guarantee you this will not be the only time I mention this band, but I couldn't help it. They're a band that, I mean, they had a following, they still following, but they never like blew up as much as I would have liked them to, and that is the Juliana Theory. It's a band that, once again, I know I name drop a lot as far as my friends, but Sam Neely, he got me into, and I'll admit, like, immediately they didn't grab me, but over time, like, they just became one of my favorite bands, and this album came out late, or some point in 2005, Deadbeat Sweet Heartbeat, which is definitely a mouthful. I'll say it one time slowly. Deadbeat Sweet Heartbeat. Somehow it's listed as just 2 words, even though that's definitely more than that. But it came out in 2005. I fell in love with it in 2006, and that totally had a lot to do with what I was going through at the time, because it has definitely got a lot of heartbreak and anger at a relationship ending. There's a lot what the album's about, but there's a lot of other stuff in there. You don't have to be in that mood just to dig this album. It's an incredible thing. It's definitely the most straight-ahead rocking of their albums, and it's sadly their last album. But if you do like them, they and you don't know it already, they are currently back together and working on a new album, and I'm really hoping that
nice
completely takes off. Yeah, it's funny. I saw them in 2010 on a reunion show where they did like maybe 8 or 12. I think it was about like 8 shows. Just to kind of do a 10-year follow-up to one of their biggest albums, like their first big hit, and that was Emotion is Dead. And they did that, and I was lucky to catch them on that tour. And then they were going to, back in 2017, the summer of it, they were getting back together to do another reunion tour. Just because, did you hear about the Warped Tour cruise that happened back in the fall?
No, I did not hear about that.
Okay, well, I knew about it just because of Juliana Theory. I follow them, and they were part of that. And so they started getting back together to prepare for that. And that was originally all they were going to do, was just that and a few other shows. And they booked them. I almost bought tickets to one of the closest shows was going to be in Nashville. And then they decided they were enjoying rehearsing so much that they started getting inspired to write new material. So they postponed the tour, and other than the Warped Tour when they did do that one. Which was just one cruise that they did that for. But anyway, they said they were working on new material, so I'm hoping that materializes at some point. I know sometimes bands can almost set themselves up for a disaster saying, hey, this is when we're going to record, because sometimes inspiration leaves you. I know that's got to be a very frustrating thing at times, but I imagine with them, they're very talented guys. But anyway, I didn't mean to go off on that aside. This album is incredible. It's more of a rocker. And I remember being heartbroken when I fell in love with this album that they had broken up in 2006.
Yeah, I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, it was like, why did I? Because I remember I started looking for tours and found out they were already done with the tour, and they were done because they felt they were not doing much more than breaking even. And definitely understand that. I mean, you I know one of the reasons why I didn't pursue music professionally was the fact that I wanted to be able to not starve, wanting to, have insurance and that kind of stuff, be able to provide for myself.
I'm not sure what's worse. I'm not sure if it's worse to find a band that has recently broken up, or if it's to be following a band or an artist who hasn't broke out yet, and then they get their debut and they record an album that sounds nothing like them, and it's disappointing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
Like, why did you do that?
But yeah, this album, luckily, I did get to see them when they got back together and did a quick tour in 2010. But has such a beautiful mixture of songs. If you're into heavy, it's only 10 tracks on the album, but there's Shotgun Serenade, French Kiss Off, We Make This Road by Walking. This is a love song for the loveless. I can't say that title without laughing just because it's so...
emo?
Yes. And which is funny because they claimed later to be breaking away from emo, and they had mostly, but that is definitely an emo title. This Valentine Ain't No Saint, they're all just full of energy and angst, and I love them. But two of my favorite tracks in more recent years, and part of it had to do with seeing them live, was... two of the more mellow ones, and that is Leave Like a Ghost, which has, in parentheses, or title, Drive Away. It is beautiful. Like, that is easily one of my favorite Juliana Theory songs. And became one I just played on repeat in 2010 and 11. But also, I Love You to Death, Drive Safely, is just beautiful and just different. Not nearly as straight ahead rocking as some of the other ones on there. So, to go on the theme of what I was trying to do earlier was, if you were going for the energy, try out Shotgun Serenade. If you're going for more of the mellow, what you're appreciating, definitely suggest checking out Leave Like a Ghost, Drive Away. If neither one of those grab you, I'm not saying give up, because each album has a distinct style. But especially like the latter two, or more rock, and their first two were more indie, early rock days. Definitely with the emo feel, but not like I can't even think. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody, but just not like Dashboard necessarily emo, but just definitely different than their later stuff. But they've got a ton of good stuff out there. If you are interested in all of them, check them out. Do you have much familiarity with them?
My first introduction to Juliana Theory was their album Love.
Yes.
I think their first single, I don't know if it was Do You Believe Me or if it was Congratulations. It was one of those two.
It'd be Do You Believe Me?
Okay. But I remember I heard that track, and then it was back in the day when the record stores were still a thing. I went there and I found the CD, because CDs were still a thing. Right. And I bought that, and it stayed in my CD player for several weeks. I just consumed it. And then later on, I listened to Emotion Is Dead, and it's not bad, but it just wasn't. It didn't grab me as well as Love did, and I haven't really listened to anything from them since then. I honestly haven't listened to anything from Deadbeat Sweet Heartbeat. So I definitely will, after your recommendation, check it out. But that was really my start and pretty much the length of my exposure to Juliana Theory.
Yeah, sorry, not trying to cut you off. I was going to say, if you like Love, and definitely if you steer more towards that side, this one should definitely still be in your alley. I know Love was a huge departure from Emotion is Dead and the prior one. It was actually their first major label album.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I know that's the reason why Sam, who got me into them, he didn't like Love nearly as much because they went for more the arena rock style and departed from their earlier stuff. And I've later heard, I'm pretty sure that it was a lot of pressure from the radio label or a record label to do more commercial stuff, and like they really went more rocking, and I dig the crap out of it. Like it is one of my favorite albums. It just really depends on what I'm looking for, of which one I'll say is my favorite at the time. But but yeah, Love was definitely trying for major label success and had some success, but didn't go as big as they wanted to. And then when this one didn't perform as well as they hoped for, and I want to say they said the record label didn't promote this one at all, that had a lot to do with why they just hung it up.
I hate it when that happens.
Yep. I'd be misquoting a little bit there, but I've read a lot about this band and even met the lead singer at that Lindy Ortega show. That's why I was at that show, was his solo stuff. He opened for her, and me and Sam hung out with him for probably 30, 45 minutes at least.
Nice.
Yeah, I felt kind of bad because I was ditching part of the concert, but I was wanting to meet one of my favorite musicians, and definitely Sam had a huge attachment to them for so many years. When we saw him and we spoke to him after the show, he's like, "Hey, come meet me at my merch table." We took him up on that. Now, if you and he seemed to enjoy it, because honestly, I think most people were there for her.
Yeah.
But a really cool venue. Have you ever been to Eddie's Attic?
I have not. Is that Atlanta?
It's right outside it. It's in is it Decatur? I think it's the little area right outside Atlanta. It's still right on the MARTA. We rode the train out there because I get nervous driving in Atlanta a lot. So I took 2 trains to get over there, but it was really convenient and everything. Really cool. But it's a little singer-songwriter place. I think I can't remember how many people can fit in there. I remember looking it up at the time. It couldn't be more than like 150 or so. But
yeah, I love those venues.
It's perfect for this style of like the more not Juliana Theory. That's too rockin'. That would not do as well in that style necessarily. But as far as just
I don't know, man. Do you remember 5 Points Music Hall?
I've never been there. I've heard a lot about it, but
well, I think it's last I knew it was closed down. It was really pretty much a bar, and they would pack in rock acts. Like I saw Seven Dust and Fuel and Nickelback and Saliva, and I can't remember who else there. And talk about being packed in and sweating on each other and just being your eardrums blasted. It was so amazing.
Right.
But anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine. But I was more speaking of like the Lindy Ortega, Brett Detter, the lead singer of Juliana Theory, his solo stuff worked so well because like you could actually talk and hear yourself, but still hear the music beautifully. Like it wasn't so overly loud, which is nice for a change occasionally because I know I'm straining to hear during most rock shows and afterwards even. so it's nice to have a different setting there. But anyway, that's just me telling stories. But Juliana Theory, Deadbeat, Sweetheart Beat, really incredible album. Like I said, if you like the more rockin' stuff, definitely try it out. If you dig more indie stuff, try out their early stuff. Like Emotion is Dead or Understand This Is a Dream. Really, really good band. So do you have any more thoughts on them, or do you want to move on to your next one? Or I guess your last one.
Yeah, I say we just move on.
Okay.
I was kind of struggling a little bit trying to decide where I wanted to end. And I think the best place to end would be with one of the last albums that really kind of grabbed me, and I guess last artist. So it's kind of a recommendation of a body of work, if that's okay.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
I know you've seen it mentioned before, the band Typhoon.
Mm-hmm.
Um, their lead singer, Kyle Morton, he also has one solo album that you can check out as part of this recommendation, called What Will Destroy You. But Typhoon as a band, when I first was introduced to them, they were poised to release, I don't know if it was major label or not, but the album that still to this day I'm captivated by is called White Lighter. Lighter as in, I guess, a cigarette lighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that album, Kyle originally had said that he wrote it to be kind of a soundtrack to a movie, because his dream actually was to be, I guess, a director. But he kind of, for whatever reasons, ended up really just being into music, which is fortunate for me and everyone else, because he's really a gifted artist. And in his music, when you listen to it, you can hear really his struggle, because as a child, he was bit by a tick, and he didn't know really why he was sick all the time, but it was Lyme disease.
Oh, wow.
And as a child, through White Lighter, you can kind of hear him talk about, being frail and the frailty of being human and having a body that is just dying or doesn't want to work. And it's really a beautiful thing. I mean, you're probably listening to me talk about it and you're like, dude, why would I want to listen to that? That sounds really depressing. But it's a very beautiful piece of work, that album in particular. But everything they've done, including the latest one they just released, which is a departure from White Lighter, called Offerings. And actually, Sam was fortunate enough to go see them in Atlanta. I think, as we were recording, it would have been last night.
I believe so. I was
supposed to be there at that show, but it didn't work out for me. So I'm really very green with jealousy over the fact that he was there that night, because I saw them twice in 2013 when that White Lighter was released. It was so good, the show, that I had to see them again. Saw them once in Nashville, which was amazing. And then I saw them again, actually, with Sam in Atlanta at Terminal West, where he saw them last night. And once again, it was an amazing show. At that time, they had two drummers, I think a total of 12 band members.
Oh, wow.
Two drummers, Kyle doing, lead vocals and guitar, plus two violins, one or two trumpets, and a trombone player. I mean, it was a sight to see. And you can hear that even on the album. They somehow captured that power, I guess, on White Lighter.
Mm-hmm.
If you enjoy White Lighter, then I don't blame you. But if you enjoy that and you want to go backwards or forwards, it's kind of different. Like if you go backwards in their body of work, it kind of, it's the same, but you can kind of hear a group of people trying to find out who they are and what they want to say. The writing is still very good. Like Colin Morton's writing is always very eloquent and very truthful, very raw. But with White Lighter, it was like a focused effort. And then with Offerings, kind of strips it back. They have fewer band members now, and it's more of a rock element to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the listeners might enjoy that more. I don't know, more or less. But as my fifth recommendation, I would say Typhoon, White Lighter. Start out with that. If you enjoy that, then don't stop there. Just keep going. Especially with their last album, Offerings, from, I think it was, last month. Released it in January.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've heard some of their stuff. I know it's been shared by you and Sam and the group. I have no clue which albums they were off of because I can't remember which tracks they were. But I remember digging it. It wasn't something that stuck with me right that second, but it's something I kept meaning to go back to, and so I will definitely now. I definitely knew you and Sam loved them. Uh-oh.
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Were you? Oh, I guess you were just pausing because I was talking. Sorry, I thought it sounded like it cut out completely again. That last month really scarred me with just thinking it was constantly technical difficulties because it was tons.
PTSD.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've had a couple, not PTSD moments, no, thank goodness. But no, I had a couple really bad Skype issues over the 7 months of recording, but last month was definitely by far the worst. Anyway, yeah, I'm going to check them out. Any more thoughts on them before we move on?
No. I mean, I guess you were mentioning, I guess starter tracks. Let me see here. Let me pull up. If I were to say a good place to start for an introduction to Typhoon from White Lighter, the single that kind of was played on the radio, probably not locally as far as around here, but a lot of radio play was given to a track called Dreams of Cannibalism. And it's got, I guess, more of a pop-driven album. It's very catchy. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted a good introduction, I guess a good dip your toes in the water type of thing, then I would say start with Dreams of Cannibalism. And it's definitely a work that you don't want to just listen to it once. And if you can get like the lyrics to it, and kind of try to digest that at the same time, because his writing is very multi-layered. There's a lot to it. And then I guess from there you can go with, I think the next track was Young Fathers, which is also kind of another powerful punching track. But probably my favorite track from that album probably is a tie between Artificial Light and a track called Prosthetic Love. So
nice.
But yeah, that would be the full spiel about Typhoon.
Nice. It's the fun thing about getting different guests each month is I think only once have I known what the other person was going to share, and that was in my early days. I felt like I needed to know, so I know. Well, the first one was just honoring the works of Chester Bennington and Linkin Park. Oh, sorry, Chester Bennington was from Linkin Park. Sorry, Chris Cornell. See, multitasking is really bad, guys. You caught me again. But anyway, that one was just honoring them and their deaths and everything. But the second episode, me and Greg shared because I wanted to have more conversation points. But I'm kind of digging this being just not having a clue what they're going to say thing that I've done in the last 4 episodes. So I'm probably going to stick with that. Because I definitely, it's really cool. And plus, the biggest reason why I stopped is I didn't want to influence myself. Like, I didn't want to know their list and be like, oh, well, then now I kind of want to mention that. No, I won't. I like the fact that lists are so different. So, really cool. Okay, well, my last one is definitely it's one of my favorite albums and it's one of the most beautiful things. And by far, it's by the most successful band that I'm going to mention today. They've had tons of success in their early days. If you are not from Australia or New Zealand, the album I'm about to mention didn't get nearly as much play and nearly as much love for that reason, and that is going to be Diorama by Silverchair. That album came out, I think 2002. There I go again. But 2002 is when it came out. Around that time, I know the lead singer, Daniel Johns, he was struggling with so many health issues that he wasn't able to tour a whole lot on it. So I know that was part of the reason why.
Anorexia, right?
Yes, yeah. He had anorexia, and it led to a lot of other health problems. And I want to say he was having really bad some type of arthritis, too, around that time. So he was just in really bad shape and wasn't able to tour a whole lot. So I know that hurt the album a lot, too. But Diorama is just one of the most beautiful albums. And
it is, yeah.
It's just all over the place musically. And I don't mean that by like he didn't know what he wanted to say. No, they are a band that if you follow their work at all, Daniel Johns gets bored very easily. And he likes to kind of reinvent the band a little bit. They did keep the orchestral moments they brought into Neon Ballroom. they took it to another level with Diorama. And I know I'm just an honest person, so I'll say when it first came out, like I was just thinking, "Where's my year 2000? Where's my other rockers?
Where's my angst?
Yeah, where's my angst? Where's my Israel son? That kind of stuff." So I was shocked. But if that is what you're wanting, there are a few of those on this album, not quite as heavy as that, but that are very heavy, and that's going to be One Way Mule, Lever, and Too Much of Not Enough has pretty good rocking in there too. Those are definitely, I'm not going to call them straightforward rockers, but more straightforward than the rest of the album. I mean, This album by no means is a departure from rock. It's still a lot of rock underneath it all, but he just brings in a more theatrical, orchestral feel to this whole album, and it's just as I described it when I wrote it down last night, it was just a blend of orchestra, piano, rocking guitars, pounding drums, and this amazing one-of-a-kind voice. He, as far as modern singers, I haven't done that list yet, so I don't want to completely nail that down, but I will say he's definitely at least in the top 10 of some of my, like, the last 20 years singers, voices, especially in the rock realm. Because he's just so unique, and he's got an amazing range. He can do that growl that works so well in rock music, but he can also hit some amazing falsetto and just, I don't know, it just blows me away. It's beautiful. Let's see. Yeah, I fell in love with him probably 2004 or 5, so I was a few years behind on really falling into it. But yeah, the unique songs that are just have the beautiful arrangements that, I don't know, a good starter. A good starter would be hard to say. Maybe Favorite Thing or Greatest View if you're just wanting to introduce to the album the more beautiful moments. But if I'm wanting to say my favorites, it comes down to After All These Years, which is, oh my gosh, beautiful. The extremely theatrical Across the Night. Like, I can't help but just get really silly theatrical whenever I'm singing it. I'm not calling the song silly at all. It's not. But just me being me. Get very animated whenever I do that one. I'm sure I sounded horrible last night. I actually had deep bass earbuds on last night when I was jamming to it, and I was singing with it. I have no clue what I sounded like. I'm sure it was not good, but in my head it sounded like I was mixing in great with Daniel, and that made me very, very happy. My neighbors probably would not agree if they could hear me. Hopefully they couldn't. But hey, whatever. I was having fun. But it's an amazing album. It's just one of the most beautiful ones, and like I said, I put it on the list because it's what I would consider a masterpiece of like the last 20 years. And I'm not saying it's one like the top one or anything, but it got overlooked a lot because of whether it be his health issues, whether it be record label related. I don't remember what else was going on, but we for a while thought that was going to be the end of them. They luckily did one more album before calling it quits, Young Modern, which was even more bizarre. And that one is a great album in itself, but not at all like this one. It was him reinventing them once again. But like I said, I thought it deserved on there because I know a lot of people either didn't hear about this one or dismissed it quickly because of it not being the rockin' stuff of their earlier days.
Yeah, I think having success so young kind of worked against Daniel and the rest of the guys because he was 14 when Frogstock came out?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it can be tough whenever you achieve that popularity at that age. Not all of the stars, as we've seen across the map, have been able to really process and handle that. So, kind of amazed I hate to say it, came out alive, you know?
No, it's so true because, I mean, we see musicians struggle all the time with substance abuse and just major depression, just all kinds of stuff. It's when they're hitting it big when they're like adults, you know, mostly fully formed, you know. But, you know, to hit it big in your teens, that's insane. Like like when I'm getting into my dream world, yeah, I'm like, that would be amazing. But when I really think about it, and the anxiety I already deal with at just my normal life, I cannot imagine what it would be like, the anxiety and the pressures that would come along with getting that kind of success.
For that album that you mentioned, Diorama, I think that he kind of tipped his hat to that direction in Neon Ballroom with Anna's song. You know, It kind of opened up about his affliction, his struggle with anorexia in that song. And then I think that Diorama was kind of him, kind of like a self-healing type of album for him.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the way it felt to me.
Well, it's definitely, I mean, there's still depression underneath it, but it's not nearly to the degree of Ballroom or even the earlier stuff. Like, he's still definitely not a completely happy person at that point in his life, but he's seemed to be doing a lot better as far as mental health at that moment. Whether he truly was or not, I don't know, but it seemed like he was on that road at that point. And I was going to say that about, you mentioned Typhoon and him having the health issues. Wasn't it Typhoon? That lead singer? Yeah. But I tell you, a lot of these musicians, like these amazing bands and stuff, it comes from a place of depression and darkness a lot of times. Like a lot of their greatest music, not all of it obviously, but a lot of, even some of the more poppy people, like at times will have just these tragic backstories. And I mean, I know with me, whenever I felt most inspired is when crap's going bad. No, I definitely don't think that deters from that, the music at all, or should deter somebody from listening to it.
The cliche of the tortured artist is the cliche for a reason.
Right. Oh, for sure. That definitely, it seems to help with that process. I hate it that it does, but it definitely.
Well, at least they have that tool and that mechanism for self-healing, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. So, do you have any other thoughts on not Across the Night, Diorama, or any of the tracks?
No. I mean, as far as you mentioned some great tracks. Probably my two that really pop out for me would be Tuna and the Brine, and what was the other one? My Favorite Thing, which you already mentioned. So.
Right. Yeah, Tuna and the Brine is amazing. It is a bizarre song, but it is bizarre in an amazing way. Well, Jeremy, I've really enjoyed having you on. As always, I typically wrap up by talking a little bit about some of the other shows and just kind of talking about some things in general. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Please, 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 please. I know I ask a lot, but let me know what you think of the episodes. Let me know ideas. Let me know your list. What 5 things do you think I should hear? Do you think some of mine weren't overlooked or shouldn't have fit in this category? Whatever it might be, I am okay with that. Let me know. If you're listening, please share this with somebody that loves music. I know we all know people that love music, and I'm looking to grow. I'm not trying to get huge into sponsorship or anything like that, but I definitely want more people to hear it. I mean, if it never grows beyond the 5 or 10 people I have listening, that's okay. But if it could grow, that would be amazing too. So please keep listening, commenting, and sharing with friends. Also encourage you to listen to other things in the Pop Network, such as Sellers Points. Had a great episode from my friend Russell Sellers last month. Him and Kelly talked about current events in Marvel and DC. Then Hard Traveling Fanboys do a weekly show. They just talked about Age of Ultron, and most recently a Black Panther run of comics, and Jenny and Miranda on Geek and Sassy. They're always entertaining, very sassy, and they recently talked about favorite 90s TV shows, and that was a fun one. Todd Weber, he does an amazing job producing this show and a lot of others on the Pop Network, and maybe even some on the wrestling, I can't remember. But he does a lot of shows. But his own show is always entertaining. He's joined by Tim Capel, and they talk about very in depth on X-Men comics. But it's always entertaining. And then I want to throw out a shout out to one of my good friends. I know I got Jeremy listened to them before in the past. Nerd Cave, not on the Pop Network, but they're really cool show. It used to last year it steered more towards video games. This year they're trying to dedicate certain episodes to video games and certain ones more to just pop culture in general. But Zach, Allie, Robbie, and occasionally Derek. Great guys and great shows to check out. So I know those aren't music-based, but since they're on the network or some I'm huge fans of and friends with, I wanted to throw a little love towards them. So again, it's a monthly podcast. Check me out each month for that. I'm trying to, if you probably have noticed, I'm trying to keep the episodes kind of purposely all over the place as far as topics because I don't want it to get stale. So I've already started planning a couple other episodes that are going to continue that theme. So Jeremy, thank you so much for coming out. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with?
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to sit down, or not sit down. I guess I'm sitting. Anyway, it was good to talk music with you. And as far as the listeners, I would just say, don't be afraid to listen to something new.
Nice. Okay, guys. Well, I will catch y'all down the road. Have a good one.
Painting a lie, seeing the colors, but you seem closer to everything. Painting a lie. but you seem closer to everything. Closer now than we ever have been. We're closer now than we ever should. We'll be closer now than we've ever been before. Closer to everything. Lost in the change and changing everything. Fables, I'm changing everything. There's no time to shine like a jewelry in the blind. From my purple pores, I'm changing everything. So one of the animals who keep sipping the sweat from my back. You're making me ill and I can't get enough. So take another pill and tell another lie. A lie amongst your lies, like